Hello and welcome, dear friends, at Lit City, the YouTube channel that serves you in your quest for NTA NET in English literature. In our series Quickfire session, today we have brought 21 questions on literary theory covering topics like structuralism, feminism, post-structuralism, post-colonialism, and other theories like narrative theory, QA theory, and many other topics that are very relevant and important for exam. So let's start with our first question. I will speak for myself as a third world person. In which essay this famous line occurs? The options are Languages of Truth by Salman Rushdie. Second option is Can the Subaltern Speak by Gayatri Spivak. Third option is The African Writer and the English Language by Chinua Achebe. And the last option is Narer Kono Desh Nai or Women Have No Country by Taslima Nasreen. All these works are, we can say, landmark works. In fact, Languages of Truth is the latest offering by Rushdie. These are landmark works in the post-colonial field of study. But the correct answer, I will speak for myself as a third world person, occurs in the Can the Subaltern Speak by Gayatri Spivak, the very famous post-colonial and feminist writer. Which among the following pair of the writer and the book is not correctly matched? First option is Eleanor Flexner, the writer, and Century of Struggle, the book. Second is William O'Neill, Up from the Pedestal. Third is Shulamit Firestone, Dialectic of Sex. And the last option is Mary Ellman, and the option is the name of the book attached with is Thinking About Women. Out of these books, which all are very important and popular works of feminist studies, it is, dear friends, William O'Neill. She is not the writer of Up from the Pedestal. Rather, it is written by Eileen Creditor, a very important work about black feminism. Stanley Fish introduced his concept of interpretive communities, a very popular concept related with reader response theory. In which particular book or essay he introduced this concept? Was it Surprised by Sin, The Reader in Paradise Lost, Self-Consuming Artifacts, Interpreting the Verarium? And the last option is there a text in this class? All of you must have heard about this particular book, Is There a Text in This Class, which make him a European and international name. This particular book, Surprised by Sin, it is his first offer, in fact his doctoral research project in which he talked about Milton. But the correct answer is Interpreting the Verarium, in which he introduced the concept of interpretive communities. Who among the following is associated with the concept of model reader? Now the options are Umberto Eco, the Italian critic, Wolfgang Iser, then we have Hans Robert Joss, and the last option is Norman Holland. All these are somehow more or less associated with reader response theory. They have given their own definition of an ideal reader, model reader, implied reader. There are different terms, and model reader is the term which is used by Umberto Eco to point out a competent and all-knowing reader, which is the term used by Octave Mannoni regarding the colonizer's inferiority. Colonizer's inferiority that urges them, that pushes them to seek out a situation with the colonized, the servile people. Is it Caliban complex? The next option is Miranda complex. The next one is Robinson complex. And the last option is Prospero complex. In fact, these terms, mostly taken from literature, Caliban, Miranda, and Prospero, they all occur in Shakespearean play The Tempest, which is a hot spot for post-colonial researcher. Robinson is also from Robinson Crusoe, the novel by Daniel Defoe, which is once again very, we can say, a center of attraction for post-colonial thinkers in how Eurocentric assumptions were set even in literature. The term which is used by Mannoni is Prospero complex. Prospero, who colonized the island and made Caliban his slave, he suffers from this particular complex. Black matters, romancing the shadow, disturbing nurses, and the kindness of sharks are some of the essays taken from the collection Playing in the Dark, a very famous and award-winning collection of essays. Who is the acclaimed author? Is it Audre Lorde? Second is Toni Morrison. Third option is Barbara Smith. And the last option is J.D. Smith. All are recurrent forces, very important writers in black feminism. And the correct answer, Playing in the Dark, is an essay collection by none other than Nobel Prize winner Toni Morrison, an American black women writer. Who among these is the writer of The Truth That Never Hurts, Writings on Race, Gender and Freedom? She is also co-founder of Kitchen Table, Women of Color Press, and activist feminist press. Is it Audre Lorde or Barbara Smith, Zora Neale Hurston? And the last option is the Mexican Gloria Anzaldúa. The correct answer, remember this particular name, Kitchen Table, Women of Color Press, because it published many works that went to gain international acclaim. It is co-founded by Barbara Smith, who herself is an active feminist, black feminist, and has written extensively about issues related with racist and, we can say, African problems. How does Robert Frost define a poem in his famous essay, The Figure a Poem Makes? It is one of the most popular essays by Robert Frost, who is basically known as America's darling poet. First is a poem. It begins in delight and ends in wisdom. It is oft-quoted line by Frost. A poem is a momentary stay against confusion, and the third is a poem is a figure that enters the eye, stays at heart. Out of these three statements, which is one or which is more than one that is used by Frost to define a poem? Only first, only second, both first and second, or both first and third? Dear friend, it is both first and second. These two statements are used by Frost to define a poem. Who is the writer of the famous critical essay, Word, Dialogue and Novel, that considers a novel as a mosaic of quotations? It's a very important essay because it introduced a new concept which was later developed by many other theorists. Was it written by Julia Kristeva or Roland Barthes, or is it Mikhail Bakhtin, or last option is Roman Jakobson? All these writers are associated with different theoretical approaches, and they have written extensively about novel. They all are critiques of novel. And if we talk about this particular essay, Word, Dialogue and Novel, it is used by Julia Kristeva, the Bulgarian critic who translated many works and coined many terms. One among them, intertextuality, is actually associated with mosaic of quotations. Which among these books by Virginia Woolf, the high priestess of modernism, was written as an experiment of a new literary form, which was a combination of both novel and essay? Was it Orlando, or The Ears, The Pargeters, or Mr. Bennet and Mrs. Brown? Dear friends, Virginia Woolf was not only an acclaimed novelist, she was also an active feminist, and we can say quite a path-breaking thinker of her time. She experimented with this form, or this. She tried to introduce a new kind of fiction, novel essay, through the unfinished, the Pargeters. Telling and Showing is a remarkable essay on the art and technique of fiction. Who is the essayist? I must tell you that it is a very important concept related with narration. It is telling and showing, and the options are Leonard Trilling, second option is F.R. Lewis, third option is Henry James, and the last option is Wayne C. Booth. The correct answer for this is Wayne C. Booth, who has written many important books about theory of narrative like Rhetoric of Fiction, and telling and showing, according to him, are the two manners in which a novelist presents his narration. M.H. Abrahams, the renowned critic, classified literary theory into 4 types. Which among these is not one mentioned by him? Is it mimetic theories? Second is pragmatic theory. Third option is expressive theories. And the last is contextual theories. He has explained that a literary theory can be classified into these 4 segments, but contextual theory is not actually given by him. Instead, he talks about objective theories. Which among the following book author pairs is not correctly matched? First is Critique of Pure Reason by Immanuel Kant. Second is Phenomenology of Spirit by Hegel. Third is World as Will and Idea by Walter Pater. And the last one is Praeterita by John Ruskin. All these are philosophers, and all these also have written about the philosophy of literature, or we can say aesthetics of literature. Now the incorrect one is World as Will and Idea by Walter Pater. Walter Pater, who was one of the founder of the aesthetic movement. Will and idea, these concepts were popularized by Arthur Schopenhauer. The Forms of Power and the Power of Forms was the title of a special issue of the magazine Genre on Renaissance Writing. Who is the editor? Who was the editor of this particular magazine and also this particular issue? Was it Stephen Greenblatt, who introduced and popularized New Historicism? Frederick Jameson, who introduced and also popularized the concept of postmodernism? Louis Montrose, once again a new historicist writer, and Marjorie Levinson. He wrote about historicity of text and textuality of history, another very popular slogan of new historicism. It was Stephen Greenblatt who edited this particular magazine and this issue, who developed the concept of character zones, fields of action for a character's speech, which encroaches, which overlaps in various ways upon the author's voice. And whether it was Roland Barthes, Wayne C. Booth, Mikhail Bakhtin, or Meek Ball, all these are deeply associated, critically engaged with theories of narratology. And the one who talks about character zones, that how they are fluid and how character overlap the intention of the writer, is Mikhail Bakhtin. Which critic first used the term concretization, implying that literature as a written code is virtual until it is read and imaginatively realized or concretized. In fact, first let's look at the options: Wolfgang Iser, Roman and Garden, Stanley Fish, and the last option, Roland Barthes. Now, concretization, it means that until we read literature, until we visualize it in our mind and make it concrete entity, it is just a written code, an abstract collection of signs. The concept of concretization is forwarded by Roman and Garden, another critic associated with reader response theory. Art is the becoming and happening of truth. Name the philosopher who gave this famous definition. Was it Henry Bergson, then we have Martin Heidegger, then we have Edmund Husserl, and the last option is Immanuel Kant. Once again, all these philosophers, hardcore philosophers, they have expressed their views about literature, and it was none other than Martin Heidegger who talked about art is becoming and happening of truth, thus establishing a very integral relationship between truth and art. With which critic or philosopher we associate the concept of the autonomy of literature? Is it Immanuel Kant? Then we have Raymond Williams. Third option is Hegel, and the last is Karl Marx. Once again, most of these writers are social thinkers, philosophers, but they have also wrote in great detail about the literature, because they all consider that literature plays pivotal role in social relation. The autonomy of literature is the concept associated with Immanuel Kant. The Personal Heresy is a series of essays in which two critics presented counter opinions about relationship between an author and a writer. Who are these two critics? Were they M.H. Abrams and Roland Barthes? Second option is Clint Brooks and M.H. Abrams. Third option is C.S. Lewis and E.M.W. Tilliard, and the last option is Clint Brooks and C.S. Lewis. Now, don't get confused about this term heresy and just don't jump to Clint Brooks, because the Personal Heresy is actually a series of pamphlets, 3 by each, C.S. Lewis and E.M.W. Tilliard, in which they give their opposite views regarding relationship between an author and writer. C.S. Lewis was adopted objective position in which he says that text is beyond author, while Tilliard, who is a traditional writer, he takes the position, subjective position, pointing out the inseparable connection between the writer and the work. Phatic Communion is a term for the non-referential use of language to share feelings rather than communicating information. Which book introduced it? Was it The Meaning of Meaning, a very popular book of by C.K. Ogden and I.A. Richards? Okay, you have direct answer, and it is the term by Bronislaw Malinowski, who introduced Phatic Communion. Actually, Phatic language is language of expression that tries to connect connection between two persons. So Phatic Communion is actually used to share feeling by words like "oh, how are you" and some other concept. What is the term F.W. Bateson coined to refer to writers for whom English was a second language and who don't know the finer rules of English idiom and grammar? Was it métèques, babous? Was it imitators or francophiles? These all are high fancy terms. F.W. Bateson rather making fun of those people for whom English is second language and they fail to grasp the finities of language. He used the term métèques. Okay, dear friends, that's all for today's session. These 21 questions will help you to gauge your preparation, to understand what areas you still need to work on. Keep working, keep supporting the channel, keep giving your reviews. Thank you, friends.